What's up, YouTube family? How's everybody doing? It's that time, right? Until next time. Well, it's time. Hope you guys are all doing well. Gather in, relax a little bit. I want to go through, you know what we've been seeing and what's been going on here. So it's been a pretty wild ride, right? We said 2020 they'd see clearly. Boy, we didn't realize this was what seeing clearly was all about, right? There's clearly something going on. I think there's no denying it right now. And that's one of the neatest parts about what we're going through, right? You're seeing people take time, right? Because they were forced to take time to understand, what's life all about, right? Take that time to understand, is there more to life, right? To make certain decisions to better themselves, right? I mean, how many people got some big chores done around the house, right? Sports parents' yards are looking the nicest they ever have, right? Because they have the time now. They're not going to all these sports. Morning rush hour out here in the country. About the only time of the day cars go by. But anyways, what I wanted to get to. So, right before all of this, I guess Black Lives movement or whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to put a name on it. But right before all this happened, I was noticing how the thought patterns of the collective consciousness were all starting to level out, and we're all starting to see some stuff coming back to open, right there at the beginning of May. And then bam, this switch and play, right, switch and bait happened. And they were rioting and burning buildings down, and just there was a lot of yang energy, a lot of frustration, just a lot of fire energy. And I was waking up every night around 3:30, just completely on fire. I mean, sweating head to toe, fire just rolling out of me. And it was up to me to try to contain that fire, right, and put it to rest and then go back to sleep. I don't know how you are at hooking up with your element. Did you feel your element coming out, 3 weeks ago when everybody was on fire raging, right? It seemed to be settled down quite a bit. But I thought that was interesting, especially because in a couple groups, right, people were getting riled up after each other, and it was like that yang fight energy of contradiction was implanted. We've seen certain individuals play that out, right? And then a day and a half later, all of this breaks down, and we start seeing this great upheaval and this up movement, right? And it was frustration for me, because it's like, this isn't what I intended, right? We want to be strong for each other and supportive, right? And we don't want to conflict each other, right? I think one of the greatest lessons we can take away from this is everybody wakes up just like me and you, puts a shirt on, puts some pants on, and heads out the door, right? Like, we as human beings are all the same, but yet we are in certain situations, and then we have beliefs that certain people are better off than others, and there's a whole complexity to that whole thing. But to see how the energies kind of walloped over that fire and that contradicting energy, right? So then we're coming out of it, right? It's starting to boil down. Everybody's seeing past it, right? We're 2020 seeing it clearly. Great, we're moving on. But then what kind of hit me over the weekend, over the last 5 days, was, nothing happens without action, right? You got to be goal oriented at times, right? If you want to set yourself up for a successful trajectory in life, right? You can't just sit there in a corner and wish everything to happen and then put no action, right? Because without action, there's not going to be the outcome, okay? So knowing all this, I like to stay pretty directive, right? And try to use my intentions and my thoughts towards goals that are going to benefit me, my family, and my life, right? But it was like, just stop. You know, you have all these, you put pressure on yourself to get certain tasks done, okay? And then you forget to stop. And I was like, okay. But I stop every once in a while, at least once or twice a day, right? Through meditation. It's like, no, stop. Just don't think, right? And then when I did that, what it allowed me to do was understand the thinking and the thoughts behind the driven action of the goal was sometimes you almost got to take attention off of it. I'm getting a blank here. Stay with me. But yeah, to go away from being driven to I gotta do this, all these knockouts, and what are we doing today? Well, I gotta do this, and this, and this, and this. To stop. What are you doing today? Nothing. What? Yeah, how long has it been since a lot of us have done nothing? Maybe more than some of us, right? I wasn't able to get the opportunity to stop during the whole shutdown. In fact, I think I worked harder. We hustled quite a bit, right? We're really trying to get ahead in life and set certain trajectories to where 5-10 years from now it's a whole different reality within my life. And you know, just thinking back on it, you know, coming from the country, you know, country boys can't survive, and having that hard work ethic of in life, right? But we have all these different complexities that affect us. And what I mean by that is we don't understand. It's hard to quantify it, right? A linear thinking brain can't understand the amount of energy that is always flowing around us, right? And then we talk about perception and mindfulness, right? And then when you become more mindfulness and you're more in that now presence, you understand when certain things come in to knock you off your trajectory, right? Certain thought patterns. Maybe it's certain people thinking about you that are entering your space and they have bad intention, or maybe they have a good intention, but you just don't understand how to recognize it, right? We all want to understand. We all want to know, right? But it's certain layers that have to be established, right? You have to build the foundation, and then you build the walls. And before you know it, you have the castle, right? And then the castle's perfect, but at times you get unwanted visitors, so you dig the moat, right? And then you want to leave the bridge down during the day because you want to welcome anyone in. But at night, you know, you want some peace and quiet, as my 7-year-old or 8-year-old says. I just want some peace and quiet. But he's the loudest one in the family. That makes sense, right? But at nighttime, you want that peace and tranquility, so you raise the gate and you shut the door. And you get really good at doing that, and you become an open conduit. And once you become that open conduit, then you understand these thoughts and these patterns when they come in, because you're in such a receiving mode. You're so open and free with energy and spirit that it's easier to diagnose certain situations and energies that should not be present in your now. So that's why I want to keep a lot of people understanding too, is like, no matter how much we research, how much we understand, and how many conspiracy theories we find out the motive behind and just get riled up over that, it doesn't really matter, right? You gotta extend the hand to the spirit and take the walk and the leap of faith. And it's been very difficult with the energies at bay for some of us to calm down and just to grasp that concept, right? Because everything is moving and shifting, and we're going into so many different pathways. You know, it really opens up the opportunity for the individual to go down the rabbit hole and never come back, right? And every time you go down the rabbit hole, you always come back covered in shit, right? So when you get back and you're covered in shit, you gotta wash the shit off. And then you start thinking, well, why even go down the rabbit hole, right? Why are we tucking our heads and going down a hole when we could look up and spread our wings and soar, right? It's a different perspective on things. What I really, really, really want to tell and say and try to portray is that these different energies have shifted. How have you shifted, right? And then thinking about this, okay, so we had all these different plays at play, right? And then we could have had the mindset to, oh, destruction, or oh, there's going to be a second wave, a third wave of this. I think they call it COVID. I don't even know what it is anymore. And then to have that strong understanding, that strong knowing clearly that this isn't how I intend things to be. I want freedom and joy and love for humanity, but in the same sense, this is how I envision it. This is how I wanted it to play out, right? So the more and more of us that go into that, we light a grid up of a more harmonious balance back to where most of the collective consciousness wants to be, right? Everybody wants everything to be right back open. I just think it's so neat. When you manifest, right? You manifest. Everybody thinks manifestation is just like, if I think it, it'll happen. Law of attraction. Yeah, that's true. But the bigger the attraction, the longer the time and space to make the reality happen, right? So you get really good with your manifestation, right? And you think in my head, it's like, I would like the TV remote, or I would like a cookie or something, and then the kid just goes and grabs it and brings it to you. You know, it kind of works like that. It's like the thought goes out, all of the reactions take place, and the thought comes back in the form of the manifestation, right? It's not, I want a sports car, and you wake up in the driveway and there's a sports car. If you keep trying, you might. I think I spent like a year doing that. Always got a little bit further ahead, but when you manifest and you start seeing that, and I'm like, man, can we slow it down? Like, can we just dip it off for a couple days? Like, I don't need things that fast. It just shows you how powerful the mind is, and when you expand your brain, you expand your consciousness, and you evolve into a higher state of consciousness, there's really no turning back, right? And we want to keep going, but in the same sense, we need to learn how to have compassion, right? And compassion can be thought about in a lot of different ways, but deep compassion, right? Compassion only the old soul can understand, right? So these players that play are doing things we don't want them to do, right? Yeah, it would be easy just to destroy them all, right? But then they don't get a chance to learn, right? There's a couple people in this world I can barely stand to talk to. For whatever reason, the great Lord above me made me their handler, right? So I'm to help them change their thought process and walk into a new way of life. Well, for 50 years or more of that person's life has been deceit and everything to empower them. So it's like, wait a second, why should they even get a chance, right? But having that compassion, that gratitude that only older souls can really understand, that even though this person is 100% wrong, 100% horrible, you still have to have compassion and gratitude for the love of God that they may eventually find the light inside of them and shine it so bright that nothing will ever deter them away from the power of the God, power of the Lord, power of Source. It's very, very interesting when we put our manifestation abilities in God's hands, right? And then we just walk our life and things happen to us. See, I think one of the things that really sparked my awakening was healthcare, right? So healthcare is ridiculous. I'm sure more than people understand. Some of you do more than others, especially those with families. But the healthcare, like 4 or 5 years ago, it went up, right? I got my raise at work, but yet I brought home less money. You know what that does is very upsetting, because I put extra effort into this job, right? I put extra effort into going beyond the call of duty, so that way I would get rewarded for my efforts, right? Hard work always pays off. That's what I've always been taught, but it didn't. And it just infuriated me so bad, right? To the point where that job did no longer serve me, right? So that job had to exit. And at the time I was really upset. I was really pissed. I was like, I did this to myself. This is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And then I had to step back and I had to kind of just clear myself. And I didn't work for like 5 months. It kind of put some stress on the family, of course. But then once I found a job and I started working again, I was almost making double from the previous job, and the healthcare was all covered. So I know at times certain situations happen and we don't understand the true meaning behind it, but it's pushing us to a new beginning. It's pushing us to a different trajectory of where we pictured ourselves, or where we manifest ourselves to be, right? So if you keep looping and looping and looping and looping, and the same things happen over and over and over and over again, then you understand, you know, somewhere in my process, there's a break. Somewhere in my process, there's a block. Well, here's what I'm asking. Is the block, is that because you can't put your faith and trust into the Lord's hands? Right? That sounds cliche, but we want to control everything, right? We want to manipulate. We want to manifest. But why don't we take time, right? And that's what I was trying to get to in earlier this video, but it was hard for some of these things to come in because something was standing over my shoulder that I didn't really like. But I was trying to have compassion and gratitude to say, hey, you can stand here and listen to me talk to myself to a phone and, you know, be gone. And it's gone now, but that's what we go down so many different pathways. And just to bring that back to that awareness that you don't have to control everything. You don't have to write everything down and say, this is exactly how my life's going to be, right? Because as soon as you get to a point like that, then you start building that expectation, right? And when you have an expectation and change comes, you don't like change because you got your mindset on the expectation. And then when the expectation doesn't happen, you know, we've talked about this before. Why set yourself up to be angry, miserable, pissed off, and just totally out of alignment with yourself because of one little thing? But I wanted it to happen so bad. You know, some of these things I sit back on and I'm like, okay, I'll shift down a gear and go a little slower. Complacency, right? Don't get complacent. But in the same thing, you gotta get complacent with God, right? I'm cool with sitting on the fence of duality, fence of good and evil, however you want to say it. I'm fine with sitting on the fence, right? It's entertaining. But if I ever get down off the fence, I know which way I'm going, okay? And I think a lot of people will sit on the fence and swing both ways. It's fine. But I'm committed to living God's world and word. Because I've served him in so many lifetimes. And I cherish everything and every opportunity that it's presented me. You know, I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I'll probably leave it with this one before it gets too long, but behind the scenes, we're doing all of this grid work lately. And some people have gridded some pretty gnarly spots, right? Egypt is lit. I think over 1,000 people have gridded that thing. There's like grids on top of grids on top of grids. And if you can truly get inside, I don't know if it's the Giza, but it's inside the ground. Might as well call it Giza, but I don't think it's there. I think it's off to the right. Anyways, there's this big quantum energy of a hall, if you will, and it's in the shape of a pyramid, but there's this huge area with all these different quantum symbols and everything. And it's just this big energy that's been produced through the grids, right? You can't see it with the naked eye. And it's like all these people are going there, just exploding the energy through Egypt. So like I exploded out and I ended up at the Vatican, and I'm like, why am I here? I'm like, I picked the channel and the highway off of a beautiful sacred symbol, and the energy flowed to the freaking Vatican, and I'm like, you crazy son of a bitch, you actually gridded the Vatican. Why? You trying to trap that in there? Can't trap it. I almost wondered if it amplified it, so gave my blessing to the Pope, kind of smiled at all that unfortunate situations, and then we just really brought that energy back into the core. And what I did was kind of like a defrag, right? Like defrag the consciousness, like get all my thoughts gone, put all my goals and aspirations right here, right? I still got eyesight, but then all the thoughts and associations with that, just let's just go. These are some things I'd really like to achieve in this life. Lord, help me get there. Not what do I got to do to get there. Lord, help me. Show me the way. Right? Next thing you know, you get a phone call. Next thing you know, you get an opportunity for a job. Right? Whatever it is that you're desiring, step back. You can have it. Right? I love you guys to death. You know, I got to thank a couple beautiful divine feminine goddesses that talked me into creating this YouTube channel. You know who you are. You guys really helped me get out of my shell, and I see the need for this, and I see the need for truth to be spoken, and I see how certain situations and certain people can really benefit from this. But it's like, I didn't need to do any of this. I'm not trying to extrude anything. All I'm trying to do is let people who are superly mentally sick like I was to understand you don't have a disease, you have an ability. And when you allow yourself to balance out and you put your trust with God, your abilities amplify. Right? We want. Ooh. Take that want, turn it back, and just let what Creator wants you to have come in. Right? And it's such a weird concept. Because if I don't do anything, if I have no action, right, a dull mind is the devil's playground. So I have no action, I'm not going to receive anything. And what I'm saying is, have lots of action. Put yourself out there in the many situations. But don't try to control everything. Don't try to manifest everything, right? Put the intention out there. Keep doing the actions. Reap the rewards later, right? You sow the seeds into the garden. Oh man, I'm standing here looking at my garden. But you sow the seeds in the garden. It takes a lot of time for that seed just to mature. Then it takes lots of photosynthesis to happen in order for that plant to grow big. And then eventually it blooms and you have beautiful fruits, right? The fruits of our labor. Okay? So many people plant seeds, they water them, take a look at them for a little bit, and then they just drop them. They forget about them. Then what happens? The weeds come up. They hide the seeds. What I say by weeds is the unfortunate acts that are not benevolent, want to hold back the beautifulness the Lord Creator planted there through that individual. But it doesn't get the chance to flourish because of all the other thoughts that come into the perception that block out the good seeds you wanted to grow, get blocked out by the thoughts you unfortunately obtained. So keep that mind clear. Write down goals, have aspirations. Yes, absolutely. Put action to work. Put yourself out there. Get quantumly entangled with things you normally wouldn't. Come out of your comfort zone. When you do all of this, it will create an anxiety inside you because you've never done all this. Your higher selves are freaking out like, oh man, they're doing it. Then you got to breathe it in. Clear the mind, meditate, do what you got to do to calm yourself because you have all of these actions, right? You want to clear the canvas so that the beautiful colors behind it, aka the veil, will penetrate through. And you'll get that massive beauty on that canvas, right? You'll have that piece of artwork that you created through your heart, through your intent, through your struggles, through your achievements, right? I don't know how you can understand this life and not understand disappointment, not understand heartbreak, right? Coming so close and not getting it, right? What happens when you do that? Isn't that interesting, right? Do you get back on the horse? Do you ride again? Or you just write yourself off and go find something else to do, right? And then be mediocre again for a while at something else, right? You look at all the greats, how many times did they get knocked down? How many times they get back up, right? And you never see all the knockdowns. You never see all the get back ups. You just see the ending, the beautiful career, the trophies, the championships. It's work, it's dedication, and it takes effort to keep your mind clear, to keep your heart open and pure, to be a conduit for the Lord and for God, and not get distracted by all these idealities that exist, right? But then in the same sense, you can't get frustrated, right? You gotta have compassion, okay? You gotta stay calm, right? You gotta understand the lessons in life that everybody else needs to receive, right? We can't just do everything for everyone. All we can do is plant a seed, and the seed in that person is the truth of the wisdom. Call it the wisdom tree. All we can do is plant some wisdom into somebody, right? But if they deter from the wisdom and they never water it, it'll never grow, right? But man, if we keep throwing those seeds in there, man, and they finally get it, it all just, well, that's cool. Starting to come alive out here. But it's a beautiful morning. I'm happy that the trajectory I'm really starting to see now, right? I wanted to come on here a month ago and be like, yeah, everything's opening up. Like, I got my hair cut. Just went to the restaurant, 5-star restaurant I really like. I spent a little bit too much money, but it was okay because I wanted to spoil myself. We ain't been to the restaurant in months. And then it happened. I started waking up on fire. I started getting really tested. I had anger coming out inside of me, and I was just living with it. Why? Until everything was coming down, guys, and I couldn't break it. Then I asked myself, and he was just like, stop. I don't know what it is to stop. I like staying busy. I like having action because I like the rewards I reap from my action. When I sat back, everything, it's just me. It's just D. Now, I'm free, right? Like inflammation, the body can't heal if you have inflammation. Well, the consciousness can't handle it or can't heal if it's handling all this. Right? Your aura is forcing out so much energy to keep all the rest of it coming in. When you stop, when you think, when you release, and you put the power of God inside you and you pump it through your heart, everything around you becomes gold, and it just backs up. Gets real big. That's what we need you guys to do. That's what Creator needs, that extra spark in everybody to put that faith and trust out there. Have compassion for those who don't, right? Don't bury them in a pit of deceit. Have compassion and raise them up for a chance to greatness. You guys stay awesome. Empower yourselves. Really open your hearts up. Put that faith into the God and that beautiful Creator that made your soul, that made all the multi-complexities of the universe, that made every little stair step and ladder to the greatness that you will achieve. Put your heart in the gold, emerald, blue tinted, pink backed flame. All right, that might be too much for you. Just go for the gold flame. The more and more I expand and the more and more my consciousness rises, the more and more my multi-dimensionality wants to come out, and to understand that you are in multiple places simultaneously, but the power behind that, right? The 5D can't affect the 3D, but the 3D can affect the 5D, right? They don't want you to know that, right? We're the most powerful beings in the universe, down here crying about our reality. Make the difference, make the change. Get up there, get some stuff done, expand yourself, free yourself, push all these thoughts back. Guys, I'm telling you, once you step out of that little cloud that's going on, that little step out of it. So powerful, so uplifting, just, it's magnificent. And to have that compassion, that gratitude, to understand that instead of saying, no, this person ain't never going to get there, to, I can't wait till you see me up there. And I'll walk with your scary little 4D self until you do. Or until you try to stab me in the back. One or the other. It always happens. I get tired of getting stabbed in the 4D. Been like ripped apart a million times. But they don't understand. I don't even have to take a vessel. At that point, I can be a fractal of time. Alright. It's gone too much. Love you guys. Hope this empowered you. I hope this uplifted you. I hope this changed the way you're perceiving and really just changed the way you've been thinking, right? Because there's been so much that have gone on. I try to decompact it a little bit, but we got to keep that faith and that compassion and the strength of our soul. Let it come out, right? Don't get distracted by what's going on. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. I'm sure most of you guys already had. Feel free to share this one out. You guys, I'm Derek with Guiding D-Light. Together we are Guiding D-Light. And until next time, you stay you be true, and we'll see you. Peace.